Hello everybody and welcome to Insider's Guide. Today we're discussing the closest ski area to Calgary, Nakiska. First and foremost, a huge thank you to Skier72 for preparing this script. Go check out his channel, linked below. Now, Nakiska may not be the biggest resort, but it certainly has a lot to unpack, an issue exacerbated by this absolute disgrace of a trail map. This video will tell you everything you need to know to make the most out of your day skiing Nakiska, along with helping make the trail map ever so slightly comprehensible. So with that, let's begin an Insider's Guide to Ski Resorts, Nakiska. Before we get started talking about Nakiska's skiing, let's discuss parking. The first thing to note about Nakiska is that you will have to purchase a Kananaskis Day or Season Pass to park. This is not controlled by the ski area, but rather the provincial government, and they do patrol the lots daily. Talking about the parking lots themselves, there are two main lots, north and south. Personally, I always park in the south lot as it avoids a set of stairs and is a little bit closer to the day lodge. Nakiska's base area is nothing special. Their main lodge building houses your typical ski area cafeteria, and they have a pub that serves drinks upstairs. A full rental shop is also present in the base area. Alright, now on to discussing the skiing. Nakiska has two magic carpet lifts, though F is only used for tubing rides nowadays. If you come on a busy weekend, there is usually a substantial line to get on E, though the line usually doesn't take very long. The bronze double chair services the majority of Nakiska's beginner offerings. To access this chair, skiers must traverse past the Olympic chair to access Sweetgrass to Sundance. Sundance is fairly flat, and skiers should maintain speed up to the bottom of the chair. As far as the runs go, Chinook to Sundance is probably the best beginner run the pod has. To exit the bronze chair pod, skiers must take either the upper part of Sundance to the Olympic chair, or Lower Homesteader to the base. This section of Lower Homesteader is one of Nakiska's worst choke points, and can be fairly steep for beginner skiers, so if possible, I would recommend taking Sundance down to Olympic, then skiing back to the lodge from there. Both Blizzard and Powder Face are not generally open to the public anymore, though sometimes the top part of Powder Face is open, you just have to take a traverse to Chinook. Alright. Let's now discuss the Silver Chair. This lift is always open 7 days a week and is the main lower mountain chairlift. Easy Way is the predominant route for beginner skiers down the mountain, which completely replaced the ski run known as Ruredo. Ruredo is abandoned, this run no longer exists. Why it's still on Nakiska's trail map? No one has any clue. Grand Trunk is the other main option for beginner skiers coming off the Silver Chair. The upper section is a little steep for beginners, so I recommend true beginners to follow Easy Way down until it merges lower down with Grand Trunk. I find that Upper Homesteader is quite overlooked as a ski run, though it's fairly short. It can be a good alternative to access the Gold Chair over Grand Trunk. Now, Nakiska's trails are very well laid out, except in this one junction right below the Olympic Chair here. This choke point is the worst on the entire mountain, as every run from the Gold Chair funnels to here to exit the upper mountain. If you're a beginner skier, watch out, especially on this section right above here. This is by far where the most collisions on the mountain happen, so be careful here. I would highly recommend avoiding the Morley Flats run. It's completely flat, and I'm not even sure why it's listed as an official run. Homesteader is Nakiska's bread and butter beginner run. It's a solid beginner run, though on weekends it can be a madhouse. True beginners will want to take Homesteader Easy Way Bypass, which avoids a bit of a steeper section. Homesteader is home to both of Nakiska's worst choke points, the first of which I just discussed. The second choke point is right below the bronze chair, in which the Eye Opener run filters in. In recent years, Nakiska has started to have Ski Patrol keep an eye out on this run for speeders, and in general, it's just best to slow down on this section. A collision is not worth it at all. Upper Eye Opener and Upper Mighty Peace are the other main blue runs at Nakiska. Upper Eye Opener is by far the easier of the two. The upper section of Mighty Peace is more steep than Upper Eye Opener. Upper Elbow used to be where Nakiska operated their terrain park before the COVID years. Now it's a fairly mild intermediate groomer. Lower Eye Opener is also a great intermediate run, though not overly difficult. Maverick is by far the easiest black run on the mountain, and could easily be considered a more advanced blue run. It can be accessed from either Mighty Peace, Upper Eye Opener, or the Eye Opener connector. Lower Eye Opener is more advanced than Upper Eye Opener, and features 3 steeper sections. Due to the way Nakiska is laid out, many beginner skiers end up on Lower Eye Opener, so if you can avoid this trail by taking Maverick instead, I would highly recommend that. Oftentimes though, it's inevitable that you'll take Lower Eye Opener. As a general rule of thumb, on a busy day, Lower Eye Opener is always preferable to Homesteader. Upper North Axe is genuinely one of my favorite steep groomers Nikiska has. The upper section is extremely steep, then flattens out somewhat until the final drop at the bottom of the silver chair. Lapping this run in the early mornings is always part of my routine when I ski Nikiska. Legacy is usually closed for race training, though sometimes they opened it to the public. I've found snow conditions to be variable here, though the pitch is a bit steeper than Upper North Axe. The lower section of Legacy is now closed to the public. Before we discuss the upper mountain, let's discuss the Olympic chair. This lift pretty much is useless, except for one of two scenarios. 1. Silver is slammed and you want to access the gold chair. 2. Silver is slammed and you want to lap the Homesteader run. Olympic only operates on weekends and holidays, and by far it has the smallest lines on the mountain. There's also a small lodge at the top of the Olympic chair that's also only open on weekends and holidays. Having now discussed the lower mountain, let's move on to the upper mountain, serviced by the Gold Express quad. I've found that lines on the gold chair can be quite variable. One minute the chair is ski on, the next minute there can be a bit of a wait. Off the top of the gold chair, let's start with the terrain directly accessed by the lift. Little Hunter is your typical Black Diamond mogul run. Accessing Little Hunter can be a bit dicey, as conditions can get skied off. Little Hunter veers towards Bull's Head, another standard but short mogul run. Skiers can continue down until they reach Eagletail Connector. Eagletail Connector is a summer maintenance road, and as the name implies, it provides access to the Eagletail run. More on that in a minute though. Off the Eagletail Connector trail, there is a small yet steep unnamed chute. This chute is probably the most technically challenging terrain that Nikiska offers, and it leads the skier down to join the bottom of Arrow. Speaking of which, Arrow is an extremely steep mogul run. Arrow usually doesn't have the best snow conditions, and as such, I usually don't spend too much of my time here. Now, Bull's Head and Red Crow are the two other mogul runs here. While they have a fairly consistent steep pitch to them, they're not as steep as Arrow. Now we get to the two main runs on the gold chair, Whoop Up and Mapmaker. These two runs are the only two that are consistently groomed on the gold chair. As a general rule of thumb, expect one out of the two to be closed for a race during your visit. If both are open, however, I find Whoop Up to be much more uncrowded than Mapmaker generally. While Whoop Up starts rather mellow, the middle is quite steep for a groomer, and overall it's really fun to carve here. Mapmaker starts off with a rather steep pitch that can get extremely icy. However, by going left at the top of the gold chair, there's a bypass to the steep icy section. At the bottom of Mapmaker, if you want to stop in at the Mid-Mountain Lodge, be sure to keep right. If you're going back down to gold again, take lower Mapmaker. If you're going to the base, take Big Bear to Olympic Easy Way, then down Amphitheater. There is always a snow fence between Amphitheater and Big Bear, so while it looks like you can ski between these runs, you can't. As mentioned earlier, I would highly recommend avoiding Morley Flats unless you enjoy skating uphill. Both Lower Mapmaker and Big Bear are enjoyable groomers that have a consistent yet short pitch. Lower Mapmaker is less steep though. Heading back up, let's now discuss the Monster Glades. The Gold Road Trail is technically an easy way down, though because this run crosses Mapmaker and Whoop Up, it's almost always blocked off in certain sections. As a general rule, if you're not confident on a steep icy groomer or mogul run, don't come up gold. Now, while the Monster Glades technically all have a name, it really is impossible to distinguish the runs here. There are around 4 entrances to access the glades. My personal favorite is to take a right at the top of the gold chair, continue past the platter, and stay as high on the mountain as you can. This leads you through several large trees until you come out onto a mogul run. Heading down this gives you access either to the Gold Road or any of the black runs at the top. As another general rule of thumb, the Monster Glades get steeper the further left on the mountain you go. However, the snow also tends to be better the further in you go. If you go as far back as you can, there are several fairly technically challenging narrow trails that require tight turns or navigating over stumps and or rocks. Every trail in the Monster Glades will eventually funnel onto Boundary or Gold Road. Signage inside the Monster Glades is practically non-existent, so it's really hard to distinguish which runs are actually which. But if you're a proficient intermediate skier, I'd highly recommend entering the Monster Glades through one of the lower entrances. The lower terrain is generally quite mellow and forgiving, and everything eventually leads back to Gold Road. It is worth noting that Walking Buffalo is more of a traditional mogul blue run, accessed from Mapmaker. Finally, let's discuss the last remaining runs. Turbo Traverse, while being considered double black, is really not too difficult, and would be considered single black anywhere else than Nikiska. Turbo Traverse bypasses a small road that's not at all shown on the current trail map. More on that in a minute. Turbo Traverse bypasses the top section of Eagle Trail, which always generally holds pretty poor snow conditions. For any history buffs out there, Turbo Traverse the Eagle Tail was part of the 1988 Winter Olympics men's downhill course, so if you're into history at all and a proficient skier, this run is definitely worth a check out. If you're interested in history, of course, go check out Skier72's channel after this. The upper section of Eagle Tail is quite a bit steeper than the lower section, and the moguls all but disappear near the bottom. Bobtail is another fairly steep moguled run, accessed from the Eagle Tail connector. Bobtail leads down to Grand Trunk and is another way of bypassing the Olympic Easy Way Trail. Old Sun and Rustler are fairly short mogul fields. Snow conditions can be quite variable on these two runs, and often they just aren't really worth going down. Crowfoot is a black run that is extremely overgrown by brush. As such, it takes a huge amount of snow before Crowfoot is skiable at all, and I'm not really sure why more slope maintenance isn't done here. Whiskey Gap and Gold Rush really aren't noticeable on the mountain at all, but they do provide access to Amphitheater from Eagle Tail. And now finally, let's discuss the out-of-bounds terrain at Nakiska. To do this, let's cut to the 1989 trail map. As you can see here, right above Turbo Traverse, there is a small access trail. This trail is opened and closed by Ski Patrol, who are also present in this terrain. This access trail is quite long, and around the middle requires a very small step up. Nothing too crazy though. This access trail leads to the Woman's Downhill Run and Bear's Paw. This area, when it is open, is some of my favorite terrain at Nakiska. There's just something about this area that feels so remote and unique. You also get great views here that just aren't available elsewhere on the mountain. The Woman's Downhill Run is not too steep and is generally pretty clear. This run leads down to the top of the Silver Chair and Upper North Axe. When it's open, it's moguled all the way down. Bear's Paw is much more technically challenging, simply due to the fact that half the run is grown over with trees. Overall, if I'm in this area, I prefer the Woman's Downhill Run over Bear's Paw, though both are solid runs at the end of the day. Alright, well, that about wraps it up for Nakiska. A huge thank you to Skier72 for all the help with this one. As always, please leave any questions down below. Go check out one of our other Insider's Guides, featuring other great resorts all around the world. Thank you all for watching. All my love, I'm out.